Welcome back to Rockstar 101. His name is Brandon. He is the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the Rockstar. Class is in session. And as we were setting the microphones up and getting all the levels right there, it just reminded me of something. Of one of the times I saw a crowd get the loudest was when they were tuning up before a band came out. I can't remember who it was, but it was whoever was tuning up the bass suddenly went into Pink Floyd's Money. Or Money or Time. I think it's Money. Doom, doo, doo, doom, 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 doo, doo, doom. Yeah, Money is what it is. Yeah. And the crowd just absolutely went berserk. Have you ever done that? Have you ever seen anybody do something like that? Because generally you don't hear them playing anything that's recognizable.
No, usually it's AC/DC. If you go dun, 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 it's funny that one note can bring on the song. Dun, everyone goes, and the whole crowd goes, na 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 na. They all just go da da da. It's the dumbest sing along that has ever been, but it fucking works, man.
Well, yeah, there's certain ones out there that I can think of. Like Master of Puppets. That first, like, dun. Everybody's gonna know exactly what it is.
Dun dun dun.
From that moment on, like you wait for it and it's like dun dun dun. So everybody's ready to roll.
Yeah, it's really funny that like the length of the dun can dictate which song you're going into. Like
exactly. Did you ever have Name That Tune when you were a kid?
You mean like on the radio or at friends' houses?
On television, actually.
No. Oh, yeah, bits and pieces, but no, it was never a big thing. It's like they play like literally 1/2 second of the clip.
Yeah.
Like
they have a show now. I think Jamie Foxx hosts it, and it's called Beat Shazam. And the whole point is you're listening to a song. You have to name the song and the artist before Shazam would be able to recognize who the song and the artist is. Yeah. So you have about 5 seconds or so. Maybe that might even be pushing it as far as length.
It's like goes. Dwight against the supercomputer in The Office.
Yes, and the sales and how he's hooting. He's got the air horn and everything. Because when I was a kid, they had named that tune, but it was like big band tunes or classical tunes. I mean, it wasn't anything I knew. These had to have been reruns by the time I was watching them, but it fascinated the hell out of me. I didn't know what any of the songs were, but what they do is they start out to like, you get to pick. So they have 2 contestants on stage, and it's like, you get to choose first. I can name that tune in 8 notes. And the next person says, whether they can beat that or they challenge the person to name that tune. And it would get like, I'm like maybe 6 or 7 when I'm watching this, and it's get like super intense.
Why? Why would it get so riveting? Why?
Because all of a sudden they would be like, I can name that tune in 2 notes. And then you'd be sitting there, and then all of a sudden the person's like, I can name that tune in 1 note. And I'm like, no way! Like 6-year-old me's like, there's no way. I don't even know what the songs are, and I was riveted by it. It fascinated the hell out of me. And then out of nowhere, you have this band that would perform the songs live, and then you hear dun, and then the person guesses the song. I'm like, get the out of here, man! Like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I always thought it was like a superhuman talent to be able to do that. And then I just learned that they're nerds like the rest of us. Because I've done that before on the radio where we play like a name that tune with rock songs. And you have it isolated where maybe you have like a 5-second clip, and then you have a 4-second, 3-second, 2-second, and then you can have people say, well, I can name that song in X amount of seconds. And then you play. Where, I guess Metallica, the Master of Puppets, and AC/DC are the ones that
they're pretty. Yeah, my favorite thing is if I'm listening to active rock and it's like if I'm in the car and I'm having a conversation with someone that's relatively important, not like you actually need to focus on the conversation, so you turn the radio down and you turn it down till it's there's like 1 volume notch up. It's not audible, right? But what happens is there are certain frequencies that pop out, most predominantly the kick, especially if you're in a car stereo. So even though you don't hear much of the melody, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear that sort of sound a little bit,
and it's going to travel through.
That's what you pick up. And so I'll be able to have a conversation with you in the car, and I'll be able to hear, and it'll be like an Incubus song. And Incubus songs have a lot of the same type of drum patterns, and they're a little bit different than like a Pearl Jam song or a fucking Nickelback or whatever else might be fucking played on the radio. And so I'll literally be able to go, okay, and I'm talking to you, and in between the moments, I do this all the time. It's so bad. But in between the phrases that you would say, I would just sort of check in with the kick pattern and go, is that wake up or is that pardon me? or is that? Oh,
It's Drive.
yeah, it's Drive. No, and but we'd be talking, and I'd be like, and someone else would be like, "Hey, yo, this is Drive. Can you turn it up?" And I go, "No, it's Pardon Me." They go, "No, no, it's not. It's. I'm pretty sure it's." I'm like, "Trust me," and they'll turn
then
it
you
up,
turn
and
it up, and
I'll
they're like, "Oh,
always
son
get
of
it.
a
I'll
bitch."
always nail the fucking song off the kick pattern because I'll have a little bit of time because I won't be like that instant sort of thing, but I'll be able to go, "No, no, no." They push into that chorus. Their chorus doesn't land on the one. They push before
Like
the one.
you're working it out in your head.
Exactly. Yeah. And it drives me crazy because I can't switch it off. I cannot. If there's a song playing in the back, I'll do it with my kids. It's the worst thing in the world. I'll be sitting there with the song on, and I'll be listening to the song and doing something, any thought process in relation to how the vocals did this or the production did that, or that's kind of like this song, something to do. And I'll suddenly, my kid will come up and pull on my shirt and be like, "Dad, I've been asking for you from across the yard." And I'm like, "I did not hear you." They're yelling at me from across the yard, "Come and play, help me with this." And I'm like fucking zoned out. Like, it's horrible. It's hard to sort of switch it off. Anyway, you said that
Well, it's interesting.
You
Well,
said,
what I was going to say, it's interesting that you brought that up too, because we do have a couple of quick things to get to, and some stuff from Instagram.
which we'll never get to.
No, we will. I promise.
Okay.
I promise. I believe it's from Lucia, is the one who sent
Lucia.
a question specifically for you. But I'm glad you brought that up too, because this kind of goes into one of the whole reasons we started Rockstar 101 was to talk about the music industry and the radio industry and everything like that. And you're talking about how you can pick up on like drum kicks and stuff like that while it's turned down super low. And that leads into a conversation I've had with multiple people in radio, and it still bothers me to this day when you hear a radio commercial for a concert and they're giving the details over the lyrics of the song.
Oh, yeah.
This was something that very early on, 20 years ago when I first got into radio, we were told don't do this. And obviously there's a lot of people who didn't go to school for radio broadcasting and they just kind of picked things up, or they feel their way is better, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of it comes from the major promotional companies like Live Nation will get a commercial that they have done in-house, and it's the lyrics with the important details. Where are you going to get your tickets? When is the concert? Like the stuff that people ask. And this happened years ago. I was in the car with some friends, and I can't remember the name, who the concert was, but everybody was listening pretty adamantly to the commercial. And it goes into the hook. So it's just the lyrics. Everybody's kind of singing along. But then they go into the details of the concert while the hook was still going on. Not a single one of them picked up on any of the information of the actual concert. They just kept singing along. And all of a sudden, and I noticed it too, so once the commercial was over, every single one of them was like, "So when was it? Like, where do we get our tickets?" And none of them picked up on the information that you want them to. So if you're planning on getting into radio or any sort of audio production, take that piece of advice. Use the instrumentals and mix it together properly so that you're able to get your message across. Because if you're burying it under lyrics, the message is going to be lost completely. It's never going to be heard.
And it's important for people who are making music, especially if you're doing a Facebook video or a YouTube video or anything like that. You're going to have moments where you want your song to be heard. And unless you're doing the official video for the song, if you're doing like a promo thing, or if you're doing a behind the scenes thing, if someone's talking, you got to turn the music way down if there's lyrics on it, or use the instrumental. And that's why when you make albums, it's in every mixer's contract that they have to supply the instrumentals. You know, you send off your Pro Tools session to a mixer and they send you back your mix and you go, "Great, I love the way the kick and the bass work and the vocals, the mix itself is great." Now you have to make a version that doesn't have any vocals, because if you were doing an ad for my show coming through town and you wanted to play Hallelujah, and you're like, "Hey, we got this ad, it's great, we want to use Hallelujah, it's all chopped up, we just need the instrumental." If I don't have it, you can't make the ad. You've now got to re-chop up all your stuff or whatever. It's like you have to start with the instrumental. So that's ironic. That is 101. That does sound like something like, unless if you go to school or if you do this professionally, you would just, it's one of those things like Builders 101. It's like, well, you don't build the house till the concrete foundation is
you
set.
can't start putting up the sheetrock until the framework is done.
And so
stuff like that.
That's pretty basic stuff. So if you didn't know that, now you know.
But you would think it was basic. And what I was saying is how it's like the major promotional companies like Live Nation, and I keep calling them out because they do it all.
They do
the
that in their
time.
ads?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
all
no,
the time.
it's fucking
And it's
retarded.
always the same guy's voice, and especially for rock concerts, you get the same guy's voice. He's talking like this. It's Slayer. And in the background, you got a Slayer song playing, but it's got lyrics, and you can't understand any of what is going on. Like, you have enough instrumentals to choose from.
How
Pick it.
how do people who are is it like the son of the guy who owns Live Nation is cutting these videos? Who's fucking making
I'm
them?
not sure. I'm not sure who's doing these things, but
Okay.
it happens a lot of the time where we get these
Stupid.
commercials in, and it baffles me that they still do it to this day. But anyway, I wanted to kind of bring that in there.
Yeah.
Let's move to the question we have on Instagram. I believe this came from Lucia. I think her last name is pronounced Rose, spelled Roos, last name pronounced Rose.
Right.
And she is asking if you would be able to do a version of NERD's Rockstar, do like a Shim version.
I have thought
of
about
Rockstar.
that. I have thought about that for real. I love for real. I love that song. We used to play that song. We used to play that song as the pre-show song before the puppies went out. We had that for a whole tour. That was it's a dope fucking song. I remember I stole the idea from Shinedown because we did a festival with Shinedown and they were on a run where they were their intro song and they play the whole song. We never used to play a whole song. We'd play like 30 to 60 seconds of intro music that I had recorded that was the intro to the show. And instead it was like Shinedown just did 99 Problems But a Bitch Ain't One by Jay-Z. They'd play the whole song and they'd fucking crank it and you'd see all these white boys with beer and like the guts sticking out and the tattoos and they're
rapping along.
and their
where it's
bandanas
like,
are
'cause I'm young and I'm black
dude,
and my hat's
I
real low.
know,
Do I look
but
like
it
a
was
mind
so
reader, sir?
funny.
I don't know.
I would be at the sound desk and I'd be ready for the Shinedown show. And of course, when you're at the sound desk, you've got stage, crowd, sound desk, more crowd. So I could see both sides of the crowd, and there was always people walking in front of the sound desk between me and the stage. And when that song would come on, it was just white guys that were getting back to their seat with their 2 beers and their hot dog or whatever their jam was. And they go, 99 problems, boy, bitch, ain't one. Come on, hit me. And there'd always be some guy that had turned to his friend and was like, dude, come on, hit me. And it was so lame, but it worked. By the time the band came out on stage, these guys were like, yeah, I'm ready to fucking party. Like,
Wait, which part was lame? Shinedown playing it or the white guys
no,
singing?
Shinedown playing it was a stroke of genius because they piggybacked off the energy that Jay-Z would incite from the crowd. And they'd come out and they'd play Sound of Madness or something dope. And they just
Something that's really loud right out of the gate, like that. You got the beginning of the Sound of Madness where it's like
yeah, and that's a great opening song. I remember talking to Barry from Shinedown. We did a tour. We did the Sound of Madness. We toured with them for a while. We did like 2-3 month legs with them. We were tight with those guys, and they would open with that song. Fucking great opening song. And then we saw them at the end of Amaryllis, so it was like 2.5 years later by that point, 3 years later. And Barry was like, dude, we need a new opening song. I've been opening with that song for 6 years now. Like, the moment that we dropped Sound of Madness to now. Like, we got to find and he was like, it's tough because it works, but I'm fucking sick of it. And I was like, I get it. It's been 3 years since I last saw you, and the opening is exactly it's the same opening.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and the fans love it. I mean, that's your big album. That's one of your big songs. Give them what they fucking want. If I could open my shows with You're Going Down, I'd fucking do it. I just don't have enough hits like they have where you can follow it with another hit and another hit and another hit. I got a few, but I don't have fucking Shinedown action. Like, they can pull that shit. So anyway, in response to the NRD thing, yes, so we started playing Rockstar before. It's such a tight fucking rhythm, dude. And so I would definitely do that, but it would be I wish I could play it, but then if I play it, it'll get ripped off YouTube. I'll have to listen to it after we finish the podcast. That's the thing that fucking sucks. If I wanted to play anything to say, oh, let's check out this song, we've got to go get the license for it beforehand, which is very good considering I create music and it protects my copyright. But when I want to fucking jam with you a song for 30 seconds, I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we played Isolated earlier this week on our morning show.
Thanks, man.
Went very well. People loved it. And I was talking to Joanna. She's the one that puts our podcast together. Like once the show was over, I got all the audio files for her, and then I give her the list of stuff to put in. And come to think of it, I wonder if I actually gave her the copy of Isolated. I got to make sure that gets in there because I told her specifically, we can put this in. Shim owns this. Like it's not a record label. It's not somebody else. And I'm pretty sure Shim's not going to have a problem with us putting this song so that people can actually hear it.
Yeah.
So, because everything else, we get a lot of messages about this when it comes to our podcast that we have it specifically set up. Like if you and I played the intro music live here, or like the reason that we can play your intro music is because you wrote it. Like you own it. It's not anybody else's. Yeah. But when we're coming out of commercials or when we're doing a news break or something like that, that audio we don't have the rights to. And I don't think most people understand how that works. They think that, well, if you play it on the radio, you should be able to play it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way because it's two completely different licenses. Yeah. And there's another podcast that I listen to. It's called Fake Doctors, Real Friends. It's Zach Braff and Donald Faison. The two I love guys those guys.
Yeah. They've got a podcast.
It's a brilliant podcast. So it's a Scrubs rewatch podcast, and it's all about them explaining the show. They bring the guests in. They've had Sarah Chalk. They have John C. McGinley, who played Dr. Cox, Bill Lawrence, the creator of Scrubs, and they just kind of chat for an hour to an hour and a half about the show, and it's a specific episode that they're talking about. So you get some of the inside knowledge and stuff like that. It's great. And great. One of the topics that they bring up a lot is Scrubs was really known for its music. They went through a lot of time picking the music for each episode. Now, if you own it on DVD and then you watch that same episode on Hulu, chances are the music is going to be slightly different. There's going to be a song that didn't make it, and they were talking to a guy who was their showrunner, and it's really irritating me that I'm forgetting his name right now. But he played, I think it was Leonard, the security guard with the hook for a hand. And as they're talking to him, they bought the rights to the songs for the show when it came to like DVD and stuff like that. Right. Streaming wasn't even a thing at this point. I guess he was one of the guys who sat down with the lawyers and everybody else. Okay, so which songs are we going to keep? And then what songs can we replace with something cheaper for streaming? So they had to sit down and watch the episodes and go through, okay, we definitely need to keep that one. This one we can swap out with this because this one is cheaper. And they've had to change it. So if you watch the episode on DVD and then you watch the episode on Hulu, it's going to be slightly different.
What a hassle.
Right?
Yeah, no, I started looking into this stuff a lot when it comes to, and there's lots of, it's a rabbit hole to go down, but when it comes to copyright, you remember 1 year ago, currently, we're going to look back at this time in a year and a half when the new laws that they've said, okay, we're going to implement these new laws. It's the same as, for anyone who doesn't know, it's the same as when they said, weed is legal. But it's legal from this date. And everyone was like, why do I have to wait over a year until the stores open? Because that's just how it works. So they've signed a piece of paper, and starting July next year, Facebook, YouTube, Google, Amazon, everywhere that you can stream and watch content, they're going to have it in their algorithm, and it's going to be like Shazam. I mean, the technology is already there, where the moment that you are broadcasting a piece of music, you have to put it in your page and your algorithm and set it up that you can show the algorithm that you have a license for it. And if you don't show that you have the license, it'll immediately it'll just block it. It'll just go, no one can view this. It's been taken down. It's been unlisted, or whatever you call it.
That already happens to us.
It already happens to us, but it already happens to you. But this is going to, some sites do it in different ways. Some of them mute it. I think the main thing is going to be live streaming. They're going to be able to do it live, which makes sense because it's all the same thing. I mean, it'll take a little bit. There'll be some bumps in the road. But what that's going to mean is that cover artists, people who do covers live on any or especially people who do covers on YouTube and stuff who do really well, they usually know the laws and they go and get the license. But if you want to do a cover of a song, you need to at least get the permission, and you need to say, hey, we're registering this so that the publishing revenue for the person that writes the song goes to the right place. And that's a long-winded thing. The difference between, well, they recorded the song, don't they own it? No, there's a different royalty for the people who wrote the song that's on the recording. So if you recorded it, you own the recording, but you have to pay a royalty of the money that comes in from your recording to the person who actually wrote the song, because that's what's giving the recording any value. If you had
you went full-blown Rain Man right there.
from a very good driver. And so, but if you're a small level artist, if you're just doing a little bit or whatever, or especially if you're doing live shows where they can't track it, you can make your living, but you're making your living technically illegally. And especially if you're doing commentary videos where you're like there is a video of a guy that someone posted it on my Discord last week. There's a guy who, and it pisses me off. It's one thing to be like, hey, cool, he's got like 500,000 views. A commentary video on You Going Down. He did it on You Going Down. And I'm like, and he was, and he knew nothing about the band. And he was this kid, he wasn't even a kid. He was old enough where it's like, if you listen to rock music, you know this song. So that means you don't really care about rock music. And you're watching it to get the and he watches the video as if he's some authority on it. Like when it comes in, he's there eating popcorn or whatever the fuck it is, and there's like a 60-second break where he's watching it and doesn't say anything. He's not putting any value into the video, right? So the point that I'm coming around to is when he uses that song without a license, the thing of value is the song and the video that I made, and yet he gets 100% of the money from that video. Right? He may have gone and gotten a license possibly, but at the moment, if you didn't get a license, or especially there are ways to get around it where like, if he, like, this is interesting shit. If he takes the song and he goes, cool, I'm going to make a video with You Going Down. If he just puts a filter on it and changes the final output, maybe he takes like some bass out of the mix so it doesn't sound quite as bassy, and he takes some of the vocal down, because you can do that with an EQ. You just go psh, psh, and suddenly the song sounds a bit different, and it's as if you were hearing it and going, dude, is the radio, what's wrong with it? Something's wrong with it. That will
sound like muffled.
That'll skip the algorithm. The algorithm will go, well, it's not the same thing. It's not the same song because it doesn't sound the same. It's like the algorithm won't catch it. So he can do that, then upload it, and no one's the wiser because no one's paying attention. He's got 150,000 subscribers or whatever, and that's nice for him. But now he's put this thing up. It's gotten 500,000 views. Everyone who's there viewing it is there because they love rock music, and they've invested a whole bunch of time that all of the rock bands have spent they've spent their time and money and energy to get you interested in this music and get you identifying with it, not to mention my personal expense. And as a result, his video has value because my song is in it, and he ain't paying anyone for that value. He's taking all of it. And he didn't do anything. It's one thing if he was to sit down and go, okay, guys, we're going to sit down for 10 minutes with this song You're Going Down. This was off a 2009 release that actually came out in 2010, and it reached this position in the chart, and they wrote it about this, and it was structured this way, and you get into it, you go, okay, you're adding value. You're doing something. All he did was sit there and literally his face went like this. That's a dope drop. Okay, I get it. Okay, I can dig this. I'm like, you're fucking useless. You are useless. You bring no value. And yet he's making bank off this. The thing that makes me happy is that in a year from now, when July of next year comes around, they're going to cut his dick off at the fucking nuts. And he's going to have nothing left to work with. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to say, congratulations, take your little pot of money and fucking blow it on porn and popcorn. Because that's all you think to do with your money. Like you don't understand the concept of reinvesting or creating new music or buying a new piece of equipment and making your show better. You're just sitting there fucking with a webcam.
What if this dude's writing an album right now?
He's not. He's fucking useless. And I'm all about it. I love watching commentary videos. There's one that's really famous from a professional singing trainer, and she watches famous rock musicians, and she goes, "Oh my god, I can see how he did. His breath control is great."
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
She's great. She's animated. She brings value to it, and she makes bank. And I'm sure she probably pays for her licenses because her videos do well, and they would have caught her.
Yeah, there's the one that I'm thinking of. She was listening to Pantera. Oh man, who?
Oh, you know what's funny? Another way that you could get past the algorithm, actually, she watches live videos. She watches live videos that people have taken from their phone, or like that was shot in Europe by some company that's kind of mid-level. So if they're not set up to catch it, like if they haven't registered their video and said this is official content that you have to pay for a license for, she could broadcast that and no one would catch it. If she broadcasted Tool's
Well,
album,
the one that I'm actually thinking of, she doesn't watch the live stuff, and it's interesting because, well, first of all, this one was brilliant. It's her YouTube channel is Rebecca Vocal Athlete,
that's
and
the one.
she's a vocal coach who analyzes rock and roll songs. She does other genres as well, but it's mostly rock songs. And she listens to Pantera's Cemetery Gates. And at the very end of Cemetery Gates, you've got Phil Anselmo hitting these super high notes, and then Dime is on the guitar mimicking Phil, and it's back and forth, and it blows her mind. So if you get a chance to go to Vocal Coach Reacts Pantera Cemetery Gates on YouTube, it's well worth your time to watch, because she truly does break it down. Like you were saying, how this one guy who did it with You're Going Down doesn't bring anything to the table.
Yeah.
He's truly just banking on the song itself, bringing in viewers, and it's just him eating popcorn.
Right.
She breaks the songs down. She breaks down what the vocals are what's happening with the vocals and what the lead singer is doing, which is brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's me, but from everything that I've been watching, especially since COVID hit, there's a lot of people. I think it's because people had a lot of stuff. There was a lot of moving parts in people's lives, and COVID simplified a lot of things. Where it was like, well, you have to work from home, and you have to get your groceries this way, and people were like, well, there's a lot. I've got time now. There's all this time available to me in certain places in my life. So they started looking for new content, and apparently, yeah, master classes and Zoom sessions and all that sort of stuff. It's become the biggest growing thing in the last 6 months. But what happens is there's a lot of people who have no position of authority educating people online. There's people who are looking for information, like, I'd like to learn how to sing better. I'd like to learn how to do this. And there's one guy who just knows how to market a little bit better. And he says, I can teach you how to sing better than everyone else. And here's my $150 masterclass. And now you're learning how to sing, for example, from someone that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Whereas this woman who you just mentioned, she clearly knows what she's doing. She's not talking. She's not teaching you how to sing, but she's at least giving you valuable information from the one subject probably that she knows the most about. Everyone knows the most about one or two things in their life. That makes you an authority on the subject. That means you're in a position to impart information and teach people. You should be able to do that. Everyone else should sit the fuck back and get out of the way. Because
Yeah, but nobody's going to do that.
yeah, but like, I don't care about them or how much money they make. I care about people who my godfather did this, right? And this is it goes all the way back to that one poem that I reference all the time. That's the Wear Sunscreen.
Mary had a little lamb. Oh, different poem. Sorry.
It's Wear Sunscreen, right? You can that poem. You know the one I'm talking about, right? You don't
I
know,
don't think you've brought that up yet.
but do you know the poem, right? Wear Sunscreen.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of '95, dude, you don't know it? Can I tell you? I'll tell you. I'll tell you right now. Look it up, because this isn't copywritten. I will tell you on stream. I'm telling you, this will blow your fucking mind.
Can you hear my dog? By
Yeah,
the
I
way?
can hear your dog going there, man.
Jesus, she won't shut up. I love her to death, but she's obnoxious as hell.
Okay, you want to hear something that'll blow your mind? This will sum up. This will give you all of the. I'm telling you, dude. This will give you all the answers to life. This is a guy who is an authority on it, and this is the thing that. And there's a line in here that literally sums up exactly what I'm talking about in one sentence. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the class of '95." This is, I think it's by Mary Schmidt. This is actually published. I've figured out who wrote this finally. Wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it. The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proved by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. I will dispense this advice now. Enjoy the power and beauty of your youth. Oh, never mind. You will not understand the power and beauty of your youth until they have faded. But trust me, in 20 years, you'll look back at photos of yourself and recall in a way that you can't grasp now how much possibility lay before you and how fabulous you really looked. You are not as fat as you imagine. Don't worry about the future, or worry, but know that worrying is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubblegum. The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never crossed your worried mind, the kind that blindsides you at 4 p.m. on some idle Tuesday. Do one thing every day that scares you. Sing. Don't be reckless with other people's hearts. Don't put up with people who are reckless with yours. Floss. Don't waste time on jealousy. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself. Remember compliments you receive. Forget the insults. If you succeed in this, tell me how. Keep your old love letters. Throw away your old bank statements. Stretch. We can feel that one. Don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do with their lives, and some of the most interesting 40-year-olds that I know still don't. Get plenty of calcium. Be kind to your knees. You'll miss them when they're gone. Maybe you'll marry, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have children, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll divorce at 40, maybe you'll dance the funky chicken on your 75th wedding anniversary. But whatever you do, don't congratulate yourself too much or berate yourself either. Your choices are half chance, and so are everybody else's. Enjoy your body, use it every way that you can, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it or what other people think of it. It's the greatest instrument you will ever own. Dance, even if you have nowhere to do it but in your own living room. Read the directions, even if you don't follow them. Do not read beauty magazines. They will only make you feel ugly. Get to know your parents. You never know when they'll be gone for good. And be nice to your siblings. They're your best link to your past and the people most likely to stick with you in the future. Understand that friends come and go, but with the precious few that you should hold on to. Work hard to bridge the gaps in geography and lifestyle, because the older you get, the more you need the people you knew when you were young. Live in New York City once, but leave before it makes you hard. Live in Northern California once, but leave until it makes you soft. Travel. Accept certain inalienable truths. Prices will rise, politicians will philander, you too will get old. And when you do, you'll fantasize that when you were young, prices were reasonable, politicians were noble, and children respected their elders. Respect your elders. Don't expect anyone else to support you. Maybe you have a trust fund, and maybe you have a wealthy spouse, but you never know when either one might run out. Don't mess too much with your hair, or by the time you're 40, it will look like you're 85. Be careful with whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it. Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing from the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it was worth. But trust me on the sunscreen. I fucking love that poem, dude. It's
That's
so
a fantastic
inspiring.
poem.
It's so
and
inspiring.
We just did, no. Right. We just did a full podcast of a bunch, like 25 minutes of hot garbage from us, and then a couple of minutes of a really solid poem that you were just able to read. So we just completely banked on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect ending spot here for this episode of Rockstar 101. As always, if you want to get a hold of us, you can always find Shim over on his Facebook page, which is where he's also got the lockdown sessions, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Fridays still.
Yes.
There you go. You can also find him over on Twitter. It is at Shimmoore, SHIMMOORE. Or you can find me over on Instagram at The Real Brandalorian. You can always shoot us a message or tag us in something if you want any sort of comment or possibly topic for a future Rockstar 101 episode.
Yeah.
And on that note, his name is Shim. He's the Rockstar.
His name is Brandon. He is the DJ.
Class dismissed.
Boom.